Aloha! Today we're going to look at reading a bill and a resolution to see if we can help simplify things. So we'll start out by going to the Hawaii Legislature's website, which is capital.hawaii.gov, and in the upper left-hand corner we'll type in a bill number, and up comes the bill status page. We can always find the most recent version of the bill at the top of the page with the bill number printed in large font. The same bill is available in PDF version by clicking on the PDF symbol right next to it. We'll use the PDF symbol for this example. And up comes the bill. The first thing we can notice is in the upper right-hand corner, we've got the bill number, including all of its draft numbers. Those draft numbers are important because a bill can change quite a bit as it goes through the legislative process, and we want to be aware of which version we're looking at. Then comes the bill title. Here we've got a bill for an act relating to the protection of sharks. And the important thing about a bill title in Hawaii is that it never changes, and it must reflect the content of the bill. So this bill could change as it goes through the legislative process, but it can't change so much that it's no longer about the protection of sharks. Then comes the enacting clause, be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Hawaii. And this is mandated by the Hawaii State Constitution. Then we come to the content of the bill, which is divided into sections. Here we've got Section 1, Section 2, and so on. And let's take a look at Section 1. Looks like Section 1 in this example is what is called a purpose section. Now, not all bills have purpose sections, but if they do have one, it'll appear right up front as Section 1. This is where they can put in information regarding findings, the need for the bill, justification, that sort of thing. So this one has a purpose section, and then we get into what the new law will do. And quite frequently, what the new law will do is change the Hawaii Revised Statutes, the books of codified law in the state of Hawaii, or the session laws of Hawaii, the enacted laws. So in this case, we've got Section 2, which says, well, Chapter 188 in the Hawaii Revised Statutes is amended or changed by adding a new section. And it's to read as follows. And then they have in quotation marks the exact language that should be added to the law books. It goes on for a couple of pages. And all of that new language is underlined. And that's part of the Ramsayer format, where for all language that's going to be added to the law books, it gets underlined, and any language that's to be deleted gets bracketed and stricken. We'll see that in the next section. You'll notice that this shows Section 188-blank. And the reason that's blank is the drafters of the bill are saying we don't know exactly what section number this should be. We'll leave that to the reviser of statutes to decide where in the chapter this section is going to go. So that will be filled in by the reviser of statutes. The way these things are usually organized is that if they're adding sections or parts to the Hawaii Revised Statutes, those will come first, then sections that are being amended, and then finally any parts that are going to be repealed. And usually within those categories, it'll be by section number. But that's just a rule of thumb. So let's see, this is all Section 2, adding that. Now we come to Section 3. Section 3 says, okay, Section 188-70 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes is amended by changing subsection A to read as follows. And then they show subsection A in quotation marks with the language to be added underlined. We've got the blank section number again for the reviser of statutes to fill in. And then also showing language to be deleted, stricken through, and bracketed. So that makes it very clear to the reviser of statutes exactly what words, what punctuation should be added to the law books and what words and punctuation should be deleted from the law books. Then we go down to the next section. Let's see, section 4. This has something to do with affecting rights and duties that have matured, that kind of thing. So this bill does not have an appropriations section, but if it did, it would appear here as a section, and it would specify the amount of the appropriation, the fund it was coming from, or the method. The expending agency would be noted, and the purpose would be noted. So all of that would be in a section on appropriations. Don't be alarmed as the bill goes through the process. It's very common for the figure of the appropriation to be blanked out. So rather than saying $100,000, it'll say $blank. And if they do want to keep a certain dollar figure associated with the bill, they'll put that in the committee report. That's not unusual. The dollar figure, if the bill is successful, will be added in usually during conference, which is at the end of session when the Finance and Ways and Means committees determine how much money is available for all of the different pieces of legislation. Then we come to the Ramsayer section, section 5, which spells out exactly what we had talked about earlier. Statutory material to be repealed is bracketed and stricken. New statutory material is underscored. They spell this out so that everyone reading the bill is going to know what that format means. And that's important because sometimes people can get confused thinking that, okay, I'm reading this bill, there are cross-outs and underlines, maybe it's talking about what's changed since the previous version of the bill to this version. But no, it's specifying how the law book should be changed. So this helps to make that clear. Then finally, the last section of the bill will be the effective date. And the effective date is the date that the law will take effect if it is enacted. This one would take effect on January 1, 2022. It could also not show a date, but say this act shall take effect upon approval, in which case the bill or the law would take effect on the date that the governor signed the bill, or, for example, the date of an override vote of a veto, that kind of thing. One thing about effective dates is don't be alarmed if it gets changed to something really crazy. For example, this act shall take effect on January 1, 2099. Yikes, they have no intention of it going off to the governor like that. What they're doing is putting in what we call a defective effective date to ensure that the bill will go to conference, where the chairs of the committees can discuss the final version of the bill that should go off to the governor. And during that process, they can fix the effective date. So don't be alarmed if that happens. It doesn't mean that they have any intention of such a crazy effective date. And that's the bill. You'll notice we have one more page here, the summary page, and this is not considered part of the law, but it is helpful for informational purposes. We've got the report title, which I think of as keywords, and then we've got the description of the bill. And this is the same information that you'll find on the bill's status page or on any reports that you run on the legislature's website. You'll find those report titles and the description. It just makes it easier finding and following the status of bills. So that's it for reading through a bill. Basically, it's the bill title, which does not change, has to reflect the content of the bill, the enacting clause that has to appear, and then sections. If there's a purpose section, it'll be right up front, and then we'll get into quite often how the law books should be changed, and then any appropriation clause, the Ramsayer format spelled out, and the effective date. So that's pretty common for a bill. Now let's take a look at how that differs from resolutions. And we'll go back here and we'll just type in a resolution number and click on the PDF symbol up at the top to look at the version of the resolution. And here we are. So in the upper right hand corner again, we've got the number of the legislation. Here we've got SCR number 152. There are no draft numbers on this version. And then we've got the title, Senate Concurrent Resolution urging the Department of Education to coordinate with. Boy, it's a long title. That's different than a bill. The other thing that's different about a resolution title is it can change along with the content. So every part of the resolution can change as it goes through the legislative process. Then we don't have an enacting clause, and we don't have sections. Instead, we have these paragraphs of whereas, 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 and then be it resolved, be it further resolved. So very different than bills. The whereas clauses are where you're going to find information as to why the resolution is needed, any findings, justification for the resolution. And they're usually structured from very broad statements of information to much more specific paragraphs. And then we get to the be it resolved clauses. And these are the action items. So here we have the Senate and the House of Representatives urging the Department of Education and the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs to implement a graduation requirement of half a credit in financial literacy. So they're urging that to happen. Then the next be it resolved or be it further resolved clause says specifically the curricula should include the following things. And then be it further resolved that certified copies of this concurrent resolution are to be transmitted to the chairperson of the Board of Education, the Superintendent of Education, and the Director of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. And this is what you'll see at the end of just about all of the resolutions will be the certified copies being sent to specific entities or persons that are involved in the content of the resolution itself. And since resolutions do not go to the governor, instead, once they're adopted, what happens is these certified copies get sent out to stimulate the action requested. So resolutions don't have the force and effect of law, but they can express the will and the intent of the legislators. So that's a resolution. We've got the resolution number, usually or not uncommonly a very long title, whereas clauses, and then be it resolved clauses, ending with information on where certified copies of the resolution should be sent. And that's it for a resolution. So I hope that's been helpful to you. Don't hesitate to get in touch with the Public Access Room if we can be of any help. Aloha and have a great day.